today's topic is business is a game, how to win. So I love this because I love gaming. Are you a bit of a gamer? Do you like games, Diane?
I do a little bit. I don't really play computer games very much other than stupid little puzzles, but I do like to think of business as fun. So it fits in with that ethos, really.
And what about like a Christmas board game, like a Monopoly, charades?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of charades, but yeah, Monopoly, but it gets really mean, doesn't it? And I'm a property investor too, so it gets even meaner. I like Rapido, which I don't think you'd ever heard of, which is basically charades, but with Play-Doh. So you have to make things out of Play-Doh.
And so there's loads of games.
Yeah.
I'm a massive gamer, and you know I've recently taken up bridge. Oh, do I love
Oh,
bridge?
yeah.
So, but I was thinking about it, and when I was covering like business is a game, actually the main point of this whole presentation is actually let's think about business a bit differently. Let's make it fun. And when you're children, or when all of us are children, and you play games, you're open to new ideas, you're open to adventure, and you're open to trying it differently. Let's break the rules. Let's see what works. It's only a game. Who really cares? And I think one of the things I'm doing is working with people and going, right, we're going to be planning for next year. And I know that you, because you're excellent at this, are going to run a brilliant planning session. Let's start 2025 really strong. But in order to really have a successful year, you're going to have to open your mind, be open to doing things differently. And a lot of us not only get stuck in a rut, we don't believe that it can be done differently.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, one of the things I learned when I worked at Action Coach was that I know is the biggest barrier to growth that there can be. Because if all you ever answer about something is, I know the answer to that already, you're not open to learning, are you? And we see that a lot in the Facebook groups as an example, where people will say, no, you're wrong, based on their one business experience, in their own business, which is valid experience, but it's only one business. Whereas obviously we, because of the work that we do, have experience of lots of other businesses, our own, but also other people's. And actually, if they will just open their minds a little bit, that they might learn something, whether it's from us or other people, then they'll enjoy their business more, but also hopefully be more successful. So yeah, mindset is everything.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to play. Okay, we're going to come up with some weird, no, you are going to come up with some weird and wacky ideas. So you've had no prep for this. And to be fair, I did brainstorm with some of my staff in the office on this yesterday. So I have got some examples on this.
Good.
But we're going to play lots of games. So have you heard of the prisoner's dilemma? Have you heard about this? You might start to recognize it as I explain it to you. So there are two people. There's prisoner A and prisoner B are arrested for a crime. The police talk to them separately and offer each one the same deal. If they both confess, okay, they each get 5 years in prison. If one confesses and the other stays quiet, the one who confesses goes free and the other gets 10 years in prison. If both stay quiet, they only get 1 year each because there's not enough evidence. So you've seen this on game shows on TV.
Yeah.
Where
and presumably they don't know what each other's answers will be. So they're, winging it a little bit.
So, but you've seen this on game shows. There's various game shows that play this in different ways. So the whole point of this, why does it matter? Because actually, it's about, do you work in your own best interest? And what is your best interest? Do you betray to work in your own best interest? Do you collaborate? And how much do you trust the other person? Because if you work trusting them and they betray you, you're in big trouble. And I think, so we're going to start with this a little bit, because actually trust is a fundamental part in a cleaning business. And it comes really nicely into, do you trust your staff? How much do you trust them? Like really trust them? Or how much are they going to betray you, or you going to betray them? Like, let's look at these relationships. Like, is it fair?
Yeah, and we talk a lot, don't we, about removing the emotion from decisions before making them in your business. And sometimes those emotions and those relationships as well affect what we do, and it stops us either actually making the decision in the first place, or it changes how we make the decision. And then we get damaged by the result of that, usually, because people will betray you, I'm afraid. And if you're the one that goes, well, let's make a pact to not say anything, thing, and the other person goes, great, well, now I can actually betray that person and I'll go away scot-free. That's a really good analogy. And yeah, it's damaging, isn't it? And that's the emotion, I think, that stops us moving forward and makes us want to quit. And we've both been through that, haven't we?
I think that, and this is where it gets really interesting, it depends on the value of the prize. Now, if I told them that they can win a £5 prize, they'll share. I guarantee if the prize is small enough, they will share. You can trust people. If I gave them a £1,000,000 prize, they would betray. You see it on traitors, right? They would betray. And I think it's really interesting, particularly when you look at, will your staff act in their best interests or the business best interest? That changes depending on money. You want them to act more in your interest, you pay them more. And the whole balance changes. So the outcome of my game, it would also depend on the setting as well. So if we're sat around having a nice chat as business owners, they don't really care about the outcome. It's a fiver, no one cares. When it makes a fundamental difference to their lives, then the outcome changes dramatically. They are a lot more likely to betray. For £1,000,000, you'd betray, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Do you think, though, that that's down to relationships as well? So if this was me and a long-term friend, then that's a different scenario to me and even a long-term employee, because the relationship isn't the same, is it?
Yes, I think the relationships change. Like, you trust your partner infinitely more, but then they'd lose a lot more than just the money if they split up with you. And long-term friends, yes, you've built up trust. So with long-term relationships, and I often explain this to my daughter, so she's transitioning into a new school, she's meeting new people, lots of things going on, and she joined a new dance group, and she says, well, I haven't really made friends yet, mummy, I don't really know anyone's name, and they're not really interested in talking to me. And I was like, well, it's quite interesting. You're going to have to meet them. You're going to have to go about 6 times to this dance group. So they, one, trust you're going to turn up. They trust you're going to behave the same each and every time. And only once they trust that you are, one, going to be part of their group, and two, going to be consistent about who you are, will they start to even acknowledge you. And trust builds up over time. It's both getting to know people, but also long-term friends. They have seen little bits of trust from you along the way. So when it comes to the big question, yeah, you're much more likely to trust them.
Yeah, so now I'm sitting here thinking, Louise, oh, if me and you were in this decision process, no, let's not go there.
Again, it depends on the mentality. Would I betray for £1,000? No. Would I betray for 10? No. Give me 1,000,000 and we might think about it.
And actually, comparing business to games and these sorts of scenarios really helps us understand what's going on in our decision-making process, doesn't it?
Yeah, so let's get back to, again, trust. So again, we're looking at the trust with our staff. So how do you build up that trust? Well, interestingly, first of all, you have to be consistent and you have to gradually build up that trust. But going back to working in your own best interests, it is, how do you sway it as well? Because it isn't all about money. We're focused on money. Actually, for them to work in the best interest of the business, what are you giving them other than money? What would they lose if they betrayed you?
Yeah. And actually, I'm sure there are businesses local to me that would pay my staff more. But actually, yeah, we do. We give them a lot more. Yes, we pay them well. Of course we do. We pay them travel time. We look after them. However, we also give them that security of knowing that this is a business that does everything properly, has a really good client base, and that our whole job, and I say this right at the interview stage and all the way through everything we do, it kind of feeds into our whole culture, is our job is to look after them so they can look after our clients. And that's very different from, we're paying you to go out cleaning. It's just a different way of looking at it, I think.
So let's twist it around again, because we have more than one shareholder. It's not just about employees. Our customers need to trust us. And I've sort of said, well, actually, you know, my daughter's making new friends. There's 6 touch points before they're going to start to even consider being friends with her. Yet we're asking them, do you know what? I was going to say we're asking them to give us a key on the first meeting. They literally throw us the key on the first meeting.
Please take the key and my holiday dates and my alarm code.
Yeah. So let's again build up this trust. How do you think this affects it? You know, do they just automatically trust us? Some are untrusting. And I've seen in some of the groups where people going, well, they're asking me for my address, they're asking me for X, Y, and Z. Is that just an untrusting person, or is that what's going
Yeah,
on
I
here?
think that's quite interesting because yeah, I've seen that where they've asked for my insurance certificate, they want my home address, they want DBS check to see it, etc. And I have to say, I don't think I've ever been asked for any of those things in 17 years. And I don't know, I'm probably a very good salesperson and maybe it doesn't even come up. But I do think that because our business and our brand, and I'm not talking about logo here, I'm talking about the brand and how we do business, it comes across in a different way so that the trust, I think, is quicker. But also, they do have touch points. You talk about the 6 touch points as part of the sales process. So when they first get in touch, and they usually speak to an answering service straight away. We don't answer our phones ourselves. We have a company that does it for us. But it starts there. Then it starts with the call when we ring them back, and then the confirmations, and just everything that we do before we actually get to the first clean builds that trust.
I think you're right. So it's not just that you have an answering phone service. The reality is they ring, someone answers.
Yes.
That's what they want. And we're closed on a Monday. And the number of customers that are annoyed, no one answered.
Yeah.
No, because we're closed on a Monday. No one will answer. We will go to answer phone. You have our mobile numbers. If you're urgent, you can call us. But it is that trust. But the other thing I was going to say is in the early days, a couple of people did ask about DBS and insurance. But now, because every person gets the terms and conditions and it outlines the insurance on there, even if they mention it, all I do is refer it straight to the terms and conditions. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't notice it. Does that make sense? Because it's part of a whole conversation. It's one little comment. There's the answer. We'll
Yeah.
move on. It never becomes bigger. And
Yeah.
so while it becomes bigger in the other persons because they've never confronted it before, it's so normal. I actually think they probably do ask you things, but you've either already answered or it's so
Yeah.
obvious.
And yeah, sometimes as well, part of the conversation, so that initial conversation, which for us is always on the telephone, we rarely go out to view properties now. So most of it is all done on the telephone. And that conversation is often, we'll talk about our team and how we work and that they're DBS checked. And so we talk about all that as part of the conversation. I've just never been asked for evidence that it's true, which is kind of, when I think about it now, it's quite weird. But yeah, I've just never been asked for that evidence that it's true. But I think it is because of the way we do business. The fact that we answer their phone call every time, 24/7, builds that initial trust, I think, that they're reassured that this is a professional business.
Okay, I'm going to move on, Diane. You
Please.
may have heard this dilemma before, okay? So you might know the answer to this. I hope you haven't, but this is the train track problem. It's a thought experiment, and in ethics and game theories, it explores how people make difficult decisions when faced with moral dilemmas. So there's a train, okay, or if you're in America, a trolley. It's running down a track, okay, and you're stood next to that track, and you are next to a lever, and you can change the train's path. Okay, so it's on a track, you can pull a lever and change its path. On the track, there are 5 people tied down who will be hit by the train. On the other track, if you pull the lever, there is 1 person tied down. What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's an interesting dilemma.
So what are you going to do? This is literally, Diane, what are you going to do?
And you can't free the one person.
No, so you either do nothing and it hits 5, or you pull the lever and it hits 1.
Okay. And do you know the one person or any of the 5 people?
No, you don't know any of them. They're
Strangers.
just people tied to a track.
Yeah, it's the good of the many for the sake of the few, or the other way around, isn't it?
Yeah, but this is your dilemma. There is no right answer, by the way. So what are you going to do right now? What are you going to do?
Because if I had to choose, I'd probably kill one person over 5, but that's horrific, isn't it?
So this is really interesting. Okay, so you're right. If you had complete information, most of us would make a logical decision, kill 1 over 5. Interestingly, though, this is actually to discuss whether you actively caused harm to that 1. If you did nothing, you had no part in killing 5. You chose to kill a person. You are now guilty for killing 1 person. If you'd not touched it, 5 would be dead, but it's not your problem.
Ah, interesting. Okay, so obviously legal issues aside, and the actual scenario, how does that relate to business then?
So I'm going to give you a couple of examples where it is really relevant. So let's look at self-driving cars. Okay. So let's say there is an inevitable crash. The self-driving car is going to crash. It is going to kill someone. Does it choose? So the programmer, because you have to program this in advance, does it choose to kill the pedestrian it's about to hit, or does it save the inhabitants of the car? So you can either save the pedestrian or save the inhabitants. One's going to die, but you have to pre-program that in advance to make the choice. So these are examples that are starting to come up day in, day out, that we are, you are often having to make ethical choices. And the same thing, so often you see this if you think of hospitals, organs. So someone's on the organ transplant list. Who do you give the organ to? Do you give it to the child that will have a really poor quality of life, or do you give it to someone that is really accomplished, very rich, can pay more for it, but they're already in their late 70s?
And I think most of us would be like, it's got to be the child, haven't we? But it's not necessarily the right decision, isn't it? And thankfully, not our decision to make. We don't have to make life or death decisions. And actually, I often say that about cleaning. And my manager doesn't like, obviously, having to cancel clients. None of us, I don't like her cancelling clients. But I always do say, it's not life or death. Nobody's going to die if we don't clean their house today. It can get done next week. So it's nice not to have to make those decisions, but we do have to make decisions, don't we, and weigh things up.
So interestingly, right, if a train was actually hurtling down the track, do you know how many people would take action and pull that lever? Because they'd have to consciously choose to do something, right? Even though it would be the right thing to do, the vast majority of people would freeze and not pull the lever. Even though, when discussed like this, they'd always choose to kill one above five, they'd do nothing. And how often does this happen to people in business? It's a really difficult time. Lockdown is really challenging, or you're in the spur of the moment. What are you going to do? I'm going to freeze.
And actually, I said that a few minutes ago, is not making the decision. That's often that emotion and that inability to make the decision just stops us making any decision at all, which is also sometimes more harmful than making the wrong decision, isn't it?
So this happens again and again. If you look at a lot of cleaners, they say they break something in the customer's house. What do? You can choose to fix it. You can choose to fess up. There's a whole load of options. What do most cleaners, and I'm not talking cleaning business owners, most cleaners, what do they choose to do?
Yeah, their first instinct is to hide it, isn't it? Cover it up. Yeah.
But
stick their head back on and hide it behind the curtain.
It didn't happen. But if you asked them, sat down to actually discuss it, they would say, no, I'd always tell someone that would be the right thing to do. But in the moment, it's easier to pretend to themselves it didn't happen.
That also happens if you've got a team, doesn't it, where you've got to make a decision about a staff member. It's really not working. They're damaging your business, but you put up with it for so long rather than actually make the decision, and you try to pretend it's not happening.
Okay, so this is a great one, right? This is my next dilemma. Let's apply our ethical dilemmas in a real life situation. So Diane, you're doing the scheduling. This will be familiar to you. You're doing the scheduling. You've got 20 staff, okay? But you had a massive cancellation. There's not enough work. You can either have 10 staff finish on a half day, right? Or 2 have the day off.
Mm-hmm. I think I would give 2 the day off.
Unpaid, by the way.
Unpaid. Okay. So you wouldn't put
them. So they've not, you can either force them to take holiday or it's unpaid.
I would probably ask for volunteers to take the day off and take a day's holiday. Okay, so again, it's less people to affect and less people to negotiate with, and so that's probably how I would play it, rightly or wrongly.
So again, this is interesting. That's taking the lever, pulling the lever and going, right, this is what I would do. I'm going to put it out to all of them. Would anyone like to take the day's holiday? They all say no. It's coming up to Christmas. I need the money. I really need the money. Actually, I really need it to get my kids Christmas presents. What are you going to do, Diane?
In that case, I would send 10 of them out flyering, probably.
Okay. Okay. So you're just coming up with more and more. But if you had to they finish on half days or 2 have a day off.
Make a decision. Yeah. It's going to be the 10 then, isn't it? It's like you've got no choice.
Well, no, not necessarily. You've got 2 that are always calling in sick. They're a pain in the bottom. Do you give them the day off? Well, you've been unreliable. I'm going to give you 2 the day off. And we have had to make this decision on multiple occasions, and I bet you have too. what do we do? Well, if someone's attendance was at 30% or something terrible, then I probably would give them a day off because they're going to call us sick anyway.
Yeah, they probably would have asked for the day. They probably would agree to the day off. Do you get this with the clients as well, though, don't you? If you're having to make a decision who you're going to cancel, who you're going to move, it's going to be the one that either the geography isn't as good, or they're just not one of your favorites, shall we say, or actually, a client that is going to be really flexible. But sometimes, that's a decision-making process, isn't it?
So this comes back to pulling the lever, okay? So making an active decision. So how many times do you hear customers complain about cleaners? They didn't turn up and they didn't even tell me. And the cleaners might intend to turn up tomorrow, but they're not communicating. And so this is, make an active choice, make it early, make it quick, and tell people what you're doing. Pull that lever. You're going to have to make a horrible decision where either one person dies or 5, you're going to cancel 1, 2, 3 people. Just tell them. Okay. Or what we do is we say to people, we normally know who it's going to be, and it will be our monthly ones because we don't care. That's not, oh, we do care. Right. This goes out to the public. We do care about the monthly ones, but they tend to be more flexible than the weekly ones.
Yeah. If you have a monthly clean, you're not going to mind moving a few days, or like, for instance, because we don't work Mondays, we'll sometimes have team that will work Mondays, and we could move a client from Thursday to the following Monday and things like that. So.
Yeah, we tend to do it. So let's say we only work Tuesday to Friday. So let's say we haven't got enough staffing on a Tuesday. So we'll move like 3 cleans on Tuesday to Wednesday, and we'll do them Wednesday. Then we might have, because often if we haven't got enough staff, it's a sickness problem. It doesn't stop after 1 or 2 days.
It doesn't. It's like a
So then we're going, right, we've got to move 3 from Wednesday to Thursday. And so every day until we finally get to Friday, and we've normally at that point caught up. But
it's usually the first decision for us is always how few people do we affect with this decision. So it's a bit like the train thing, obviously, without the dying, is how as few clients as possible, as few team members as possible, and as few schedule changes as possible to accommodate. But yeah, because one person off sick can actually affect more than their clients, more than one other team member. It can, and we're just trying to minimize it, aren't we, really? But we have to make the decisions.
Okay, right, you ready for the next one?
I think so.
It's a game of chicken. Do you know the game of chicken?
Yes.
Okay, you're going to like this. So Diane, we know where you work anyway, but a new competitor arrives in your area, as if you don't have 100 already, but this is the game anyway. A new competitor arrives in your area. Okay, you could drop your prices to outcompete them. Okay, so you could literally price them out the market. Okay, what do you think about that?
For me, that would never be a good business decision, because I know that the demand is high. I know our marketing works, and I know our sales works. I know our team are great. However, I could understand why a bigger business like ours might go, do you know what? If we dropped our prices, we've got the resources to weather it. They haven't.
Yep.
And especially as we're hopefully offering great service for those lower prices. But for me, I would not make that decision, purely because that doesn't fit with how the value I see in my business. But I could see why a bigger business might be tempted.
You could drop them for a short time, first 3 cleans, couldn't you? Game of chicken. You could literally outcompete every smaller business.
Yeah.
So if you do that, basically you are running the risk of your cash flow going, how long can I hold this out for? I don't know if this works particularly well in the cleaning industry, because we have so much competition. It would be very hard to monopolize an area, like really hard. Or you need to understand that actually customers don't always buy based on price. And so it's really interesting when you're saying, look, I'm a bigger business and I could compete with them. I could outperform. You could sell for less than they can for a short period, because you'd go bust very quickly if you did. But actually you're saying to me, no, I'm not going to compete on price. I'm going to compete on everything else, quality, service, everything else. Do you know what I've often thought, Diane? Right. And I know we're going to actually do a podcast about price shortly, but similar to you, I compete on quality. I want to be the best. I want to be the most consistent. Do I always get it right? No. But let's say we aim for it, and most of the time we get it right. But in my area, and I'm in South Manchester, so there is so much competition, and people all over go, yeah, but in my area, the going rate's £15. And I go, so it is in mine too. Do you know what I'd love to do? run a company in my own area, or a second company, and I would, well, I couldn't even run a business at 15, but like it would have to be 20, let's say, but competing at the bottom end, doing like cutting everything to the bare minimum and compete against myself, right? And absolutely monopolize the market, go, I want the top end and I want the bottom end, then that would stop competition. But then the problem is, I know what would happen if I did that. I would just be so overrun with work that I'd somehow have to deliver, that I'd be so busy running at the bottom end that I couldn't deliver the top end.
Yeah, and it's interesting because with your marketing and sales skills and your experience, you absolutely could nail that business. And to be fair, you'd probably change some of the things that you do in your current business to accommodate the lower price point. But it goes back to that thing where we talked before, where it's like, do you want to sell more at a lower price, or do you want to sell less at a higher price? I would rather have a better, easier, more sustainable business at a higher price than chaos at a lower price, because we know the demand is there. And after 17 years in our local area, I guarantee you that 90% of the people in that area have never heard of us. Doesn't mean that we're not great, and it doesn't mean our marketing doesn't work. It just means that that's the reality of small business. So although we are competing, there's so much work out there. I don't know that we don't have to compete on price, that's for sure.
So this brings me on to my next point really, really nicely. So let's talk about scaling your business. I'm going to cover this in a couple of different ways. So this is a war of attrition. Okay. So let's say you and your competitors in your area compete in a busy marketplace for dominance. Okay. You can grow by outspending your competitors. You could throw everything you've got, Google ads, Facebook ads. You could advertise on every lamppost. You could absolutely nail this, but it's going to cost you money to do it. Okay, because you've probably done this to a certain extent and gone, it's not worth it. But anyway, or that's one option. You could throw everything and you could grow your business massively. Or your other option is you focus on retaining core customers and having incremental growth. So it's sustainable, but a lot slower. Okay. So you're advising a new business, someone that wants to break into their local market. What are you going to tell them to do? Because both work.
Yeah, they do work, but I also think that marketing is a lot smarter than that. I don't think that, and we've run masterclasses on free and low cost marketing, and I've literally just about to release a book on marketing for cleaning businesses where most of that doesn't cost anything. So really it's the fundamentals of knowing who you want to target. And actually, interestingly enough, I did a free coaching session with somebody this week who's not in the UK, they're in Canada, but they were talking about who they thought they were going to target. They were going to target very big houses, okay, really big houses. And they said actually all the competition are targeting those houses as well. And she was worrying about it. And I said, I don't think they're your target market. I don't think they're the target market for any of us who are growing businesses with a team, because they're too big, those houses. And I remember making that same mistake when I first started. I thought we had a professional football team near us. I thought, I'm going to target all those big houses with swimming pools and Ferraris on the drive. They're not our target market. Our target market is a 4-bed detached house on a housing estate where it's double income, kids, etc. And so I think that that's the risk that you take of going for the wrong thing and thinking you have to throw a load of money at it. So I get the scenario is you do one or the other, and if I was going to do one or the other, obviously I'm going to do incremental growth. But for a new business that wants to really make a big impact, there are smarter ways of doing it.
Okay, so I think this is quite interesting. So I see on social media, and by the way, very much agree with promoting on social media, but what you see is a new business enters into your area. And this happens to me on a probably weekly to monthly basis, right? So often. It's gone on for a decade. But anyway, and what I see is their name everywhere, every post. And I'm admin on quite a few groups, and they're advertising 4 or 5 times a week if I would let them. But I don't, so once a week. But anyway. And they're everywhere. And this will go on for 8 weeks, 10 weeks. Tell us what happens next, Diane, because we all know the end of this story.
Well, they either get busy or they go bust.
One or the other, isn't it?
One or the other. I say go bust. They either get busy or they give up, because it's either not working or it works too well, especially as usually they're competing on price rather than the value that they add. So yeah, I think it's relatively easy to get started as a solo cleaner and fill up your diary, so long as you've got that 2 or 3 months. And I did say this on that free coaching session, you know, some of the things that I'm advising you to do are going to take 2 or 3 months to start working, but most people give up before they get to that point.
Okay, right. We're back to games again, Diane. So I have a lovely slide. It says rules and regulations. So every game, whether it's Monopoly, Uno, so there are a few rules in a game that you must adhere to. So I'm going to run you through the rules if you're going to run a business. And this is any business. So you must pay your taxes. HMRC sets some rules. You must, of all the rules, you must follow those ones, or that's not going to end well. Okay, then you've got your criminal and your civil law. Basically, don't break the law. One last one, employment law. Okay, so those are your 4 sort of sections of law. Okay, now, the most important bit that no one really talks about, beyond that, we write our own rules. Okay, those are the rules. Those are the rules of the game. Then you can literally write any other rule into your contract. So as long as you write these rules correctly, the court is on your side. The other people have to sign the contract and agree to these rules, but you can effectively do as you please. You can be as unethical, right, and as you like, as long as you follow your own rules and enforce them properly and correctly. You can literally write what you like. So, okay, you can tell where this is probably going, Diane. Okay, if you could be a totally unethical cleaning company, okay, based on sort of what your cleaning company does, you can write any rule you like. And I've got some example ones here. I want 5 fantasy cleaning business rules. What 5 rules would you write into your contract that absolutely everyone or specific people have to abide by? Okay, so number 1, got to pay for a clean even if we don't do it.
Oh, brilliant. I love that one. I was going to say you must pay the day before you're clean every time, but actually paying even if we don't do it is even better.
Oh yeah, no, you've got to pay a week in advance. So I'm going to put a 1-year cancellation clause in. And if you move house, we must continue that 1-year cancellation clause to clean your new house.
Brilliant. I like that. Yeah.
We're going to tell them what we're cleaning, not them.
Yeah, perfect.
Have you got anything you want to add to this? I had a lot more time to think about this.
Yeah, I think there's going to, I mean, it relates to we get paid even if we don't clean. I think that there should be 10 weeks of the year where we don't clean and we still get paid for it.
Yeah, all paid holiday for 10 weeks. Okay, they must clean before we turn up. So they must tidy before we turn up, or all complaints are null and void. Do you like it?
I love it.
And I've got one more. Complaints are limited to breakages and missed areas, but breakages are not covered, and all pets must be removed.
And you've got to complain within an hour of us leaving.
Yeah, but you've got to complain without even seeing it. So this is, but right, so okay, they're what I would love to write into some of my contracts. But it's quite interesting. So, do you know, actually, some of these are not far off what I have written into contracts. So, for example, I won't cover faulty fixtures and fittings. So when we cover breakages, you know, I've extended some of ours to a 4-week cancellation clause. So actually, you know, I do write some of these in. And when I'm coaching people and talking to people, they're like, you can't do that. I did.
It's always interesting, isn't it? And you're right, you know, pay your taxes, follow the law. After that, you make it up as you go along, don't you? It's your business, so it should be the business that you want it to be. However, when it comes to contract law, there are a few provisos between business and consumer, that the contract has to be fair and equitable between the two parties. There's less rules when it's business to business because they are seen as 2 strong parties in the arrangement. I know I'm just telling you, you know, a few bits that you don't want to hear, Louise. I can see.
No, it's not fun, is it? It's not.
No,
I'm
it's
like
not
unethical.
Fun. It's not fun. But there are lots of things that you can put in place. And we talked a lot, haven't we, about terms and conditions. And, you know, so many people say, oh, we don't have terms and conditions. I wouldn't want my clients to feel like they needed to have something like that in place. And then we're like, but they're going to spend £3,000 a year with you. Why would you want to sell them something without terms and conditions like that? You know, if you bought a telly for £3,000, you'd want a really big warranty on that, wouldn't you? So it's good. I think they protect both of you. But yeah, it would be lovely to have fantasy rules, definitely.
Do you know, interestingly, so the DCBN, I think you've actually rewritten them now, some of them, but on the DCBN contracts, I got to play with some of them before they went out. And things like the cancellation clause, I actually had in mine, I think we had 24 hours as a cancellation clause. But when I rewrote it to go out to everyone else, I think I put a week in there, and we've now changed some of ours to 4 weeks. But the reason we put a 4 weeks in there is because a lot of business owners feel so uncomfortable, they will always move it down. They never move it up. So when we put a week, they will shrink it to 24 hours. They will never put it up to 4 weeks. Whereas if we put 4 weeks in, they would stick with it sometimes because it's that not pulling the lever, isn't it? I don't want to make an active decision. I'll just take what's in there.
Yeah. And actually, that's interesting because that's not just about not pulling the lever. I think that's also sometimes about limiting and us believing what we can do. So many times I get told you can't charge in advance for a one-off clean. I'm like, well, we do. And we have done for a long time. You can't quote over the phone without seeing a property. Well, we do, and we have done for 4 years. So I think sometimes our own limiting beliefs stop us putting things in place in our business. And it's wrong. It's not helpful to us, and definitely not helpful to the business.
Okay. Right, I'm holding up a tiny bit of pink paper. It's just a scrap of paper, just because it happens to be in front of me. I'm not very good with lefts and rights sometimes, right? So this is my pink paper. Okay, you saw that, didn't you? This is my right hand. This is my left hand. I would like you to pick which hand is the scrap of paper in. Diane saw it go into my right hand. If you get it right, Diane, you can win a prize. Which hand is the scrap of paper in?
Oh, I'm hoping it's still in the right hand.
Correct. You got it right. Well done. Okay. I'm now putting my hands behind my back. Not that I need to, because I could just put it below the camera, right? And I am now putting the scrap of paper into a hand. Diane didn't see it. Diane, if you get this right, I'll double the prize. Which hand is the scrap of paper in, my left or my right?
You're right.
Correct. You got it right. Okay. So, seems a bit ridiculous that you saw me put it in my hand. When you don't see me put it in my hand, you had a 50-50 chance of getting it right. You got it right, but you had a 50% chance. And actually, next time you'd probably get it wrong. Okay. Depends how it goes. When you saw me put it in my hand, you will get it right every time. You're going to win the prize every time because you saw me put it in my hand. When you don't have enough information, you have a 50-50 chance. What's really, really interesting is, as business owners, we have to take risks and make decisions with incomplete information. Okay, so when you had the information, you got it right every time. The rest of the time, nah, you knew there was a scrap of paper and I had two hands, but you weren't going to get it right every time. So I think what's interesting as a business owner is that you have to make a lot of decisions with incomplete information. So this brings me on to my next question. You knew I was going somewhere with this one. What would you like, as a business owner, cleaning business owner, what would you like complete information about, or what would you like to know for certain? Customer demand in your area. Do you know exactly what the customer demand is? Okay. And just as an example, I've had this recently in my going back to beekeeping. Obviously, my husband's a beekeeper. We sell honey. This is my 4th year of selling honey. We have a limited quantity of the product, but I have been selling it for 3 years already to a limited amount, and it sells out. I pretty much know what the demand is, what they're going to pay, subject to me not increasing my marketing, changing the prices too much or anything else. I can predict exactly what the demand is and in which month we will run out. If I do exactly the same thing, this is what will happen. And so I can price accordingly because I know the demand. Now, if I want to change the demand, I change the marketing, I change other things. But in cleaning, particularly as a new business, how many of us know the customer demand?
No, it's very difficult, and we're at an advantage, aren't we? In that we can look at data, we can look at history. You know, we've got years and years of experience of knowing how the demand fluctuates seasonally, how recruitment fluctuates seasonally. You know, what systems we need to tweak in our business. We've got all that experience. But yeah, as a new business, I don't know how you can assess demand other than just putting yourself out there. It's just very, very difficult because the stats aren't really there, are they?
They're not there. You don't know what they're going to pay. You don't know what other cleaning businesses are doing. You don't know any of that. So this opens it up to you, Diane. What else would you like to know for certain? And I have some example answers, but I'm going to let you go first. What would you like to know for certain?
So what if we're talking 2025, what I would like to know for certain is that the recruitment market is going to be as good at least as this last year.
Okay, so I'm going to break that down because I have some example answers and you're just ruining it for me. So anyway, let's move on.
You asked me
Okay.
to give an answer.
So, would you like to know employee satisfaction? How would that help you?
Yes, I suppose, but it's something again that we already kind of measure and have in place to a certain extent because it's based on retention and results, etc. But yes, of course, I think we'd all like to know how happy they really are.
On a daily or hourly basis, that would be super helpful. Because imagine if you knew the other thing that would be really good, because this is individual to each one, employee requirements. What do people want? What do they want from a job? What would make them happy?
Yeah. Why do they work for us? Why do they stay?
Yeah, if you had complete information on that, how good would that be? Customer and employee reliability. So do we take on this customer? Are they going to pay on time? Are they going to be good? You know, when you do recruitment, you're gambling. We know it's a numbers game. You don't know the reliability. So you're making decisions with incomplete information. I've sometimes had to decide between two seemingly good people, and I don't know, who do I turn down? Who do I say yes to? Like, I just don't know. It would be really good to have complete information on their reliability or their team fit or whatever we're looking for.
Yeah, and how long those customers are going to stay for.
The other thing, right, and you might think you actually already have this information, but a lot of new businesses fall apart because they don't have this, customer expectations. So the better you get, and I think what you brought up was really interesting. You're like, I have a lot of this data. I'm not out trying to find it. But the reason why a lot of cleaning businesses fail is they don't have the data. They don't know what the customer even expects. How can you deliver a quality service if you don't know the customer expectations? So if I was to change one thing about a new business, it'd be get the expectations. If you know what they want, you can deliver it. And I genuinely believe every cleaner would deliver those expectations if they fully understood them.
I agree. And I think that the skill there is learning to ask the right questions and have that conversation with the client so that you do understand their expectations better. It also, of course, starts with the sort of clients that you want to attract and realizing who they might be, because the one with the Ferrari on the drive probably isn't going to have the right expectations for your business. But maybe the one with two kids and a dog and they're both out at work all day, they're going to expect you to help with the chaos. And that might be for you the perfect client.
Do you know why the one on the with the Ferrari on the drive isn't my perfect client? Because I spend most of the quote going, no, 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 no. And I'm like, okay, at the end of it, I'm like, you can have everything you want. This is the price for what you want. This is the price for what I'm prepared to deliver. And they normally go, I want that at that price. Yeah. And I go, nah, that's not happening.
Yeah, no, we've been asked to clean the swimming pool room and things, and it's just like, I'm really sorry, but no.
And lastly, what you would really, really like for 2025, full information about local and national market forces. So you've got some of these already, but not everyone does. So affordability in your local area. You want to know holidays. You know, are there certain peaks and troughs? Like we have often talked about, you and I know there's peaks and troughs. There's times to recruit and there's times to stop wasting your freaking time. It's not going to happen anyway. We want to know monthly fluctuations. We know there's times when customers are all going to cancel. So, for example, I expect in the new year, I'm going to get a raft of cancellations in the first couple of weeks. Not because I've done anything wrong. Oh, I've reassessed my finances, they'll cancel. And you go, oh my gosh, my business is going under. I can't replace them this fast. Well, 2 months later, they'll be back.
And also there's things out of our control, aren't there, that are kind of coming along the tracks. So your actual costs of employing are going up by at least 10% in April. We don't know if there's going to be other changes from the government yet. There's certainly are things in the pipeline that we don't have any control over. It'd be nice to be more certain about those, I think, at this point.
So this brings me beautifully onto my next one. So Diane, you're in France. So I don't know, how long ago was this? So I'm in Manchester and recently Oasis reformed.
Yeah.
And they were doing a concert in Manchester. I think they did it around the country, but they definitely did it in Manchester. And they're a Manchester band. Everyone went crazy. They wanted tickets. And there was a massive scandal because Ticketmaster, who sold the tickets, introduced dynamic pricing. Okay. Yeah. So this isn't a new thing, but for those that don't know, basically the demand for Oasis tickets went through the roof. I know people that were online, or I think they did it all online, and they were waiting in the queue for like 6 hours. There was like 100,000 people ahead of them in this queue. So Ticketmaster have already written in the algorithms, when the demand shoots through the roof, guess what happens to the price?
Yeah.
So they were expecting tickets. I can't remember what they were advertised for. I think it was about 200, 180, I think, or £200 a ticket. So that's what they were expecting to pay. Those tickets were over £800 a ticket somewhere, but some paid more than that. And this isn't resellers, this was Ticketmaster, because the demand was so high. So what they did, let's assume this is what they did, because I don't know Ticketmaster personally, they shot the demand up to the price up to curb the demand so that only those that were prepared to pay more could get it. And that's what causes the price to fluctuate. Now, this isn't new. This happens on flights. We know when the demand is high, the price for flights goes up. Okay. Now, let's look at how we can apply dynamic pricing to the cleaning industry. So I don't think you or I do this that much, okay? But
but we've seen it happen, haven't we? I mean, you know, post-COVID, when supply was low because a lot of people had left the industry, demand was through the roof. Prices shot up for everybody. And yeah, we do see, I think we are still seeing it. Supply is still lower than demand. And I think dynamic pricing is still in place. I'm not sure that I'm going to be charging more this week than next week. One thing I did do, and this was post-COVID, when we were really struggling to recruit, the year or 2 years after, so up till 2022, probably end of 2022, it was almost impossible to recruit. I've never seen it so bad in all my years in the industry. So we literally went out to all our fortnightly clients and said our minimum now fortnightly is 3 hours. So all the 2-hour fortnightly. And it was a way of kind of thin out the client base, because we just can't meet the demand with our current team, and we couldn't recruit as easily. And it was actually quite shocking that so many people stayed with us at 3 hours fortnightly from 2 hours fortnightly. We did lose a few clients, but not enough. I remember at the time thinking, now what do we do?
So that happened across the industry, and we all dealt with it slightly differently. I didn't go up to 3-hour minimums because we just had 2 smaller houses for a lot of ours. But let's look how you can apply it right now, because that golden time has kind of passed a little bit. So dynamic pricing, let's say you clean Airbnbs. When does every Airbnb want to be cleaned? Which day?
On a Saturday.
On a Saturday. So now imagine you charge double on a Saturday. You can have a Wednesday off. 1, nobody cares that you have a Wednesday off. And 2, you've earned enough in 1 day to cover 2 days' work. So it would make sense to charge double, because you know everybody wants it. They've got nowhere else to go. No one else can deliver it. There is not enough supply in the UK. So I would be charging more for that. And then the other thing, we've seen this in the groups, the debate, should I charge more for cleaning Christmas Day, Boxing Day, New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve? You know, should I be charging more? And lots of people going, yes, charge time and a half, charge double. You know, in every other industry, if you're in the NHS, for example, well, it was paid double a few years ago. I don't know whether it still is now. You're going to be paid time and a half for doing antisocial hours. So it's something we could look at, right? But we can apply this in every business, whether you do Airbnbs. So if, for example, you clean, I don't know your days, let's say you do Monday to Friday, okay? There is greater demand on Mondays and Fridays. People want to be clean before the weekend, and people want to be clean just after the weekend. So there are people that struggle to fill, say, a Wednesday, particularly a Wednesday afternoon. Who wants to clean on a Wednesday afternoon? So you can either take it off, or you might choose to offer a slightly lower price for those, or you might say, no, this is my pricing, but I'll offer a higher price for Friday or Monday. So there would be no issue with offering a bit more of a dynamic price to try and even it out through the week, so you could serve every customer. And there's a lot of customers that ask for Friday that would be fine with a Wednesday. And if they were asked to charge slightly more to have a Friday, or given the option the same rate on a Wednesday, they would happily swap to a Wednesday. So I think there's a lot of us that would benefit from actually implementing dynamic pricing to level the demand.
I agree. I think it's a really good option for us. And you're right, Friday is usually the most popular day, but I always advise people with busy families to have we don't work Mondays, but to have a Tuesday, because it cleans up after when they've been home all weekend. Whereas for a busy family to have a clean on a Friday, it's wrecked by Saturday lunchtime, isn't it? It was pointless.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously there's other ways around it. You can do sales, you can persuade people, and we actually get a balanced one through other methods. But actually, if I was a one-man band and I didn't particularly like negotiations, I would happily just introduce that. And I'm doing a quote, you can have Friday at this price, you can have Wednesday at that price.
Yeah.
What do you want?
I've had those conversations with people transitioning from solo cleaner to having a team, and their clients are like, but I only want you. Your team's great, but I really want you. And I'm like, well, then you're more expensive. Do it that way.
And there's lots of ways you can implement dynamic pricing, particularly like you definitely see people that are overworked at certain times. It wouldn't kill you to adjust it with the pricing. And I think you and I, when it comes to pricing, actually, it's a topic we discuss a lot, and we tend to be quite upfront about it. But it's a bit to play with there.
But I think that's key here, actually, is because I think often it's the fear that holds us back from charging more, and not just us, but I see it in all the groups. If I did this, all my customers would cancel. That's a massive fear and a limiting belief. But actually, if you're thinking about business as a game, you're like, well, I could just try it because it's a game, and it's, it can make it work better if I think of it that way.
So, right, you said computer games. Let's go on to computer games. I'm going to stick to a basic one, a bit of Mario. Okay. One of the things you see is leveling up. We go up level by level by level. Okay. And this happens on all computer games. And you're like, my kids are often telling me, I'm on level, no, I don't know. And I've got this many stars. Look, I've got a new skin. But anyway, how to level up in business. Okay. And people sort of often approach business going, oh, I don't know. There are really clear rules of the game. If you want to level up, right, there are clear and easy ways. And I think working in both a product and a service business, if you are in a product business, it is really simple to level up. You invest in new machinery, you will level up. You invest in X, Y, and Z, that is the next level. And it gets a bit more confusing as you go into a service-based business for a lot of people, because it's not so obvious, because it's not a tangible leveling up. So it comes in increments, and it can be different steps, but I'm going to talk about the levels, and you can disagree with me if you like, and you can put them in a different order as well. So, for example, number one, we're going to level up a cleaning business. Might be better equipment, better hoovers, better whatever, investing, just bringing your own equipment. So that's level one. Number two, we're going to get a scheduling and accounting system. So we're going to start to improve the systems. Number three, we're going to actually look at staff training. You're going to deliver consistent quality. Number four, you're going to start marketing. You're going to get signs. You're going to do online marketing. So you're going to invest in that. Number five, you might want an admin to free up your time. Number six, you now get a team leader who's going to be managing your team. Number seven, we're going to invest and improve in the systems further. Number eight, you're going to diversify into specialist areas. Can you see they're really clear levels? Now, you might disagree the order. That was just quickly off the top of my head. But actually, it's hard for business owners because it's intangible and they just can't see this, but they're just different levels.
And I think that's really important, actually, because I did a masterclass recently called the Cleaning Business Exit Blueprint. The blueprint was technically around building your business so that you can one day sell it or pass it on, etc. But actually, it became very clear that it was a blueprint for a great business. And that's actually was the fundamental thing of it. And what you're talking about here is the clear steps, levels for a great business as it grows, as it transitions, as it changes. And that's why this sort of relating it being a game is like it's obvious and it's clearer, and all you have to do is figure out what you need to do to go to the next level. And that actually should be your 90-day plan, shouldn't it? It'd be, okay, I want to get from level 1 to level 2. What do I need to do? What do I need to change? What do I need to improve? And how am I going to get there? And what tasks do I need to carry out? And that's how I've always worked my business on, okay, I want to do this. How am I going to make that happen? Put the things in place to make it happen. Now, does it mean that it's been easy? No, of course not. It's been in a roller coaster occasionally, and sometimes it's been like, actually, I don't like where I've got to. I need to change.
But Diane,
it is a natural progression.
Isn't that true of every game? It's not easy to pass the level. It's never easy. They make it hard. But
And
all the
sometimes you
same.
stay on one level for far too flipping long, don't you? You're just like, I'm never going to get past this level. I'm a week now and I'm not past this level. And then all of a sudden you do it and then you pass 3 more levels in the space of a couple of hours. So yeah, it is really the same in business, I think.
And people come to business with different experience, different backgrounds, and some levels are really easy for them to pass. And you think, oh God, how do you do that? I don't like you. So yeah, it is just a game. And I think you get bogged down and you go, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with you is you haven't practiced enough yet. You will pass it. You just haven't passed it yet.
And actually, isn't that part of success in business, is being persistent and sticking at it and being resilient? Yeah, there's a lot of learning and, you know, going out there and finding the information to better yourself and become a better business owner. But fundamentally, it's just about staying in the game for longer than everybody else.
So we started this with me telling you about bridge, right? And you've talked about staying in the game there. So bridge, I'm in 2 years of lessons. I'm 18 months into 2 years of lessons, right? And every Tuesday morning, I rock up, and there's a load of experienced players that play separately to me. And I rock up, and every week I come last, or maybe second or third from last, but pretty much last, okay? And I keep rocking up, and I keep coming last, and I keep losing and losing and losing and losing every freaking week. I lose, okay? Maybe I don't lose quite as badly, but I'm always losing. But I tell you what, I do lessons every Thursday. So that's my Tuesday morning losses every Thursday. Because I lose so much on a Tuesday, every Thursday I win. Because when I'm playing with people the same level, I'm winning. Now, in order to be at the stage where I'm going to beat those people on a Tuesday, no, I have to keep rocking up and losing, because if I don't lose, there is no way I'm going to start winning. And it's true of that in business, right? We all make mistakes. We all get it wrong. The fastest way to get it right is to lose more. And this comes back. So I'm a really big gamer, right? Monopoly, right? In fact, pretty much any game. I have played so many games over the years, and I play them and I play them and I play them, and I'm competitive and I will do it. So you can give me any game and I will pick it up very, very quickly, and I will do much better than the average person. Not because I'm a better person, but I've had so much practice at losing, they don't vary that much. And it looks like I'm good at it. No, I've just lost every game so much that they get easier and you can apply it.
That failure way to success, isn't it?
I've just failed everything, absolutely everything. And I think, you know, if you want to do well in business, you brought it up, you have to be tenacious, you have to be resilient, you have to stick at it, and you will lose, okay? You will get it wrong. How many of us have spent money on marketing and got it wrong? How many of us have recruited the wrong person and had to sack them? How many of us have taken on a customer that hasn't paid their bills? And it's hard, but it's not going to get you down. If you learn how to get over it, you write into your contract, you realize you sack that person quickly instead of waiting 2 months. You learn from it and it happens less. You're still going to lose, you're going to learn from it again. But as long as you learn from it, those losses get less and less and less. And I think that's what you and I sit here saying to people is, yeah, no, bad things happen to all of us. You know, did one of my staff steal a customer last week? Well, it didn't happen to me, but they might have done, but I don't care as much. They stole 1 or 2, not 20. So the losses still happen, but we now know how to prevent them an awful lot more or minimize it. And I think that's what comes with experience, and that's what makes you successful. Is you've learned every way to not run a business until you've learned to actually run it.
And also for me, I've always tried hard to keep learning. And we talked about I know being a real barrier to success, and actually going out there and listening to other people and learning from other people, I think has been a key thing for me, because I've found that I've had to grow as faster than my business. Otherwise, the mistakes that I've made would have been a lot more serious, I think. And it's also accepting that you're not perfect, and business isn't perfect. And if you think of it as a game, like you said, well, it's okay to fail on that level right now. But if you keep at it and you keep learning and keep focusing, you will push through to the next thing, won't you? So I love the analogy between business and a game.
So thank you, everyone. I love gaming, and I love that business is a game. And I hope that we've opened people's mind to kind of look at it a little bit differently, to see, you know, it's just a game and it's okay to lose.